Brendan Schaub is popular today as a podcaster, host, and comedian. But prior to all of that, he was a football player turned MMA fighter. And at one point in his career, he had a lot of momentum going for him, and it really seemed like he would soon be a top contender in the UFC's heavyweight division. But that never happened, yet he's been more successful than ever. So how good was Brendan Schaub actually? Hey guys, it's Kiiyon, and today I want to talk about former MMA heavyweight Brendan Schaub. I want to thank Kodiak Coco for suggesting I do this video, so please keep commenting who I should do a video on next. But yes, this was a video I really wanted to make because when I reminisce on Brendan Schaub's MMA career, I remember being a fan of his at one point, and I was really excited to see his potential based on his early UFC run. But it's crazy how life works sometimes, because nowadays I hardly even remember that Brendan had an MMA career. And that's just due to how much success he's found outside of fighting. When you ask about Brendan Schaub's MMA career today, people are gonna say he had a glass jaw and was just a mid-tier level fighter. But I believe Schaub was more than that, and he displayed that numerous times throughout his career. So let's talk about Brendan Schaub's MMA career and really understand how good he actually was. I also want to thank LuxLocks for sponsoring this video. LuxLocks creates genuine leather clutch bags that can keep your documents safe with the ultimate fingerprint security. You can register or activate up to 10 fingerprints, which makes it far more convenient to access your valuables. And the high-grade technology allows users to open their bags within a second. The inside has a lot of space and could easily fit big items like a phone, as well as smaller ones like cash and credit cards. On top of all that, the bag is fully waterproof, so there should never be any worry for when it rains or if you accidentally spill water on it. The stylish leather bag is available for both males and females. So visit luxlocks.com to get your genuine leather bag with fingerprint technology today. All the info is going to be in the description down below. Now let's get to the video. Brendan Schaub began his MMA career in 2008 by racking up 2 first-round knockout wins against Jay Lester and Johnny Curtis. In 2009, Brendan finished Alex Rosman by strikes on the floor after defending his takedowns and landing some heavy shots that Rosman would eventually tap to. He went on to win the Ring of Fire Heavyweight Championship after finishing Bojan Spalevic 52 seconds into the first round by strikes. In these 4 fights, Brendan displayed his athleticism, speed, strength, and power. And for someone who just began the sport, he developed some good technique in his striking as he utilized his powerful jab to set up combos. Following this win, Schaub competed on the 10th season of The Ultimate Fighter, fighting for Team Rashad Evans. In the opening round, Schaub fought D'Amico Rogers. Brendan would get taken down early and controlled on the ground. He would then reverse D'Amico and begin to throw heavy ground and pound. The fight ended by Schaub securing an anaconda choke. And after defeating John Madsen and Marcus Jones by knockout in the quarter and semifinals respectively, Schaub would go on to the Ultimate Fighter finale to fight Roy Nelson. Early on in this fight, Schaub would find success with his jabs, but with a minute remaining in the first, Roy Nelson would knock Brendan Schaub out cold, handing Schaub his first career loss. Following this fight, Schaub would come back in March of 2010 to face Chase Gormley. He would defeat Gormley 47 seconds into the first round by strikes. He then fought at UFC 116 against Chris Tuchscherer, who he finished by strikes a minute and 7 seconds into the first round. Schaub would then make his pay-per-view debut at UFC 121 against former top contender Gabriel Gonzaga. But throughout the 3 rounds, Schaub was able to pick apart Gonzaga with some combos and take him down where he poured on the ground and pound. He was awarded the victory, and it was a huge win for Schaub, who seemed to have passed his first test against an MMA veteran like Gonzaga. So the UFC decided to give him another MMA veteran, or should I say MMA legend, in Mirko Cro Cop. Schaub truly showed out in this fight by taking Cro Cop down through the first 2 rounds and controlling him on the ground with strikes. When it was on the feet, Schaub controlled Cro Cop against the cage in the clinch. And with a minute and a half left in the third, Brendan would land an overhand that would drop Mirko. Schaub was the winner by KO and was awarded knockout of the night. So at this point, Schaub was a top 10 heavyweight, and for a guy who entered the sport at 25 years old, he seemed like he hadn't even reached his full potential yet. One thing I want to add here is Schaub would later admit that after this win, he got addicted to prescribed Oxycontin for his broken nose. He said he would take them every day non-stop for 4 months. And Schaub wanted to continue being the legend killer of the heavyweight division, and did this by calling out Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. The two fought at UFC 134 in Nogueira's home country of Brazil. Schaub was the favorite considering he was on a 4-fight win streak, and Nogueira was coming off a KO loss against Cain Velasquez. But things worked out for the aging legend Nogueira, who knocked out Brendan 3 minutes and 9 seconds into the first. It was a huge upset for Brendan Schaub, and the upset would continue 8 months later when he fought Ben Rothwell. Schaub would lose by knockout again in the first round, and it only took a minute and 10 seconds. Brendan would go on to fight heavy hitter LeVar Johnson in 2013 and would bounce back by winning the unanimous decision after out-wrestling LeVar for 3 rounds, which was a game plan that he continued to use against his next opponent in Matt Mitrione. After some exchanges on the feet, Schaub would take down Matt and secure the Darce choke. It seemed like Schaub reinvented his game from a pure stand-up style to an offensive ground fighter, and so far, it was successful. In the same year, he also began the Fighter and the Kid podcast with comedian Bryan Callen. So not only was Schaub finding success again inside the octagon, but now he was finding it outside as well. In 2014, Schaub fought former UFC heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovski. The fight was lackluster with very low striking output and both guys trying to take each other down with no success. Schaub had more significant strikes by the end of the fight, but still lost a split decision. UFC Dana White would criticize both fighters for their performance and would say, for Schaub to think he got robbed is hysterical. After this loss, he went on to fight Travis Browne at UFC 181. The two had a lot of animosity towards each other, and the primary reason was because of Travis Browne's coach, Edmond Tarverdian, who added fuel to the fire by saying Schaub was mad he wouldn't train with him. But in retrospect, I think the beef truly stemmed from Brendan Schaub, who used to date Ronda Rousey. And although Ronda and Travis Browne didn't become an official couple until 2015, he probably had some feelings for her at that point, and thus the small Eskimo brother rivalry began. Browne controlled the entire fight and stuffed Brendan's takedowns with ease. He would then land an uppercut that rocked Schaub, and from there, Travis would finish the fight with strikes before the ref stepped in. It was a one-sided defeat, and afterward, Brendan would do a podcast episode with Bryan Callen and Joe Rogan to talk about the fight. It became a serious conversation when Joe Rogan would say Brendan had one foot out of the door when it came to fighting. Now, these were some real harsh words from Joe Rogan, but they seemed in good taste from a friend who was looking out for another friend. Rogan also said Schaub wouldn't be able to beat the elites in the division. He would go on to say if Schaub couldn't be a champion, then what was the point? There would be a possibility of Brendan getting knocked out even more. And I feel like this all resonated with Schaub because in October of 2015, he announced that he would be retiring from MMA. He also added not wanting to sign with the UFC's new Reebok deal as another reason for not going back. The Reebok deal brought Schaub's sponsorship money from $100,000 a fight to $10,000. And Brendan was very vocal about this. In fact, he was one of the first fighters to fight the Reebok deal as he saw how it affected him financially and didn't want that for other fighters. This definitely made UFC President Dana White angry as he didn't believe Schaub was making that much per fight prior to the Reebok deal. Dana White would go on to say that the Reebok deal was good for the sport to move forward, and although fighters couldn't wear sponsored gear in their fights anymore, they were still allowed to have sponsors outside of the cage. With Brendan's unwillingness to cooperate with Reebok and the UFC, and with the success of his podcast, it seemed like everything was set up for him to leave the game. So after going 10-5 in the sport of MMA, where he did become a top 10 fighter in the UFC at one point, my question is, how good was Brendan Schaub actually? So considering that Brendan became a professional fighter at 25 years old and earned a record of 8-1 between 2008 and 2011, I think that in itself is quite impressive. Brendan's athleticism definitely helped him exceed in the sport. He was very strong and that helped him knock out his opponents, take them down or stuff their takedowns. But he was also very fast for his size and that made him scary when he would rush his opponents. But this also made him susceptible to getting hit in the face. And when he did take a dip in his career from back-to-back knockouts, he came back and reinvented himself from a striker to a grappler. And I was impressed by how much Schaub wanted to grow as a martial artist by doing jiu-jitsu tournaments like Metamoris. The issue was that as much success as he found when he took the fight to the ground, he was unable to replicate that against top competition like Travis Browne. And I truly believe if he fought Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez at the time, he would have got destroyed. The final skid in his career happened because, like what Joe Rogan said, he couldn't beat the elite because he had one foot out of the door. His podcast career was truly taking off, and at the same time, he was beginning a career in stand-up. And by seeing how successful both have become, he made the right decision to step away from fighting and make a living without having to take damage. Schaub did his best to grow as a martial artist, and I think he needs to be commended for that. But in a way, his growth was cut short due to the other media opportunities that he received. So what do I think would have happened if Schaub took MMA more seriously and had both of his feet in the door? I believe he could have improved a lot, and although maybe not become a champion, I could have definitely seen him become a top contender. But more importantly, Schaub really displayed his worth. He could have easily ignored his friends and continue to fight like many other fighters have done. But he decided to swallow his pride and take a risk on finding success outside of fighting. So yes, I would say Brendan Schaub was a good fighter overall, but he wasn't the very best in MMA. Yet that doesn't seem to matter because he left at the right time to build the media empire that he sits on top of today. My name is Kiiyon and this was my take on how good Brendan Schaub actually was. Do you agree, disagree, or have something else to add? Please put it in the comments down below because I'd love to read it. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. But that's all I have for now, so I'll see you on my next one.